Hello, my dear simmers. Tonight there was a new developer stream and we had the chance to see Inibuilds showing the new A320 with a small demonstration. I remind you that this plane will come as a free aircraft. Unfortunately, we didn't get to hear the beautiful sound of the CMF engines, but it will be out soon, either with the Sim Update 15 or a few days after. And I will leave you from here with Inibuilds and Jogneman for the rest of the video to have all the details.
Cameron, how are you?
Hello. Good, thanks. Great to be here today.
Yeah, really glad to have you on. Here to talk about, of course, the Airbus A320. What's been going on with that? What are the updates? Are we going to see it soon? I'll give the time over to you.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to start going over about like what is the A320neo? Why is it cool? You know, like why do you want to fly it? Well, I think one of the main things we move over to here is the engine, right? The engine is what makes the Neo the Neo. If it's not there, it's currently called the CEO, so current engine option. Neo is new engine option, and that's what we have here. And it is a, well, masterpiece maybe is a bit too far, but it's somewhere close to that. This engine uses around 15 to 20% less fuel than the old engine. Now that sounds pretty good, right? You think, well, that's a good saving, but that actually gives you 15 to 20% more range. So that's really good. You know, that is why so many airlines want these engines fitted to their aircraft. But you can also see here, it is really rather large for the size of this aircraft compared to the old. And the blade sort of design. So if I come in quite close to the engine now here, you can see it's very, very modern. It's almost totally different design to the older style engines. It's actually, if you already know it, the 777 used to use an engine called the GE90, still fitted now. This is actually a miniaturized version of that with a lot of different technology going on. And that's where this kind of extra gains come from. It's got 50% less noise, roughly, and around about 50% less NOx emissions, which is, these are numbers that are multiple generations worth of sort of leaping ahead. And that's why this aircraft is the most popular aircraft in the world. It's got around about 12,000 A320s are flying, and there's around 3,200 Neos in service today. So I think I'll come on and show you some of the extra details that we have here as well. So you can see if we come right up close to the aircraft, a lot of this text as well is very legible because we've taken this from decals. So you can actually go right up close to it and you can actually see a huge amount of detail on the walk around. Your head height is roughly around about here if you want to kind of copy that when you do a walk around. And you're looking for these kind of main areas here and the avionics inlet outlet on that side. But I'm just going to jump back into the cockpit now shortly. I've already got the aircraft set up, so we're ready to go. And we'll do a quick engine start. So going around the flight deck as well, you can see that there's really good level of detail here. If we bring it really quite close, you can kind of see there's almost no loss of quality when we get right up close to it. And from a functionality standpoint, pretty much everything on this overhead is clickable. So, you know, I can click here, turn the ADRs off. Everything should operate as you would expect. So I'm just going to put the APU bleed on, and I'm just going to put one of the packs on. And you'll actually hear a slight change in the audio in the flight deck. So let's start the engine. First of all, you move it to ignition start, and you can actually see this is something that's slightly different on the Neo. These FADECs here, they power up. So you saw we had the Amber X's before, and now they've powered up. So we can actually see the information before we started. We're good to go. So let's start engine number 1. Now, this is quite a different start process to make sure I actually done. Yeah, there we go. This is actually quite a different start process to the conventional aircraft. So you can see it starts spinning up. Everything is hotter. Everything is faster on the Neo because it's that next generation of technology. So generally you would see on older engines when you get to about 20% N2, something like that, the fuel will start to go in. So you can see now no fuel's going in, and it's going to keep going till about 30%, something like that. And then we'll see the fuel being introduced. So it should do it around about now. And there you go. You can hear the light off in the background and our temperature is rising. Now, here's an interesting thing that we've been able to model. This aircraft here today, we're at Le Bourget Airport, roughly around where the Paris Air Show is set. And if you've done an engine start within 6 hours, the engine will actually crank to cool itself down because the engine gets so hot in normal operations it has to cool itself down before it starts, and it will do that for a full around 55 seconds. So if you get this aircraft and you think, what's the engine doing? Is it broken? No, you've just done a turnaround. The engine's already warm and it's going to be cooling itself down. It's not necessarily based on temperature. It's based on time. So that's engine number 1 started. So let's do number 2. While the engine is starting there, we can talk a little bit more about some of the details that we've been able to capture inside here. So this is always an interesting one with Airbus aircraft. So opening the window, you think, okay, we just open the window, which is fair enough. But now we go to close the window, and it actually won't close. Now, this is a real feature of the aircraft. You have to unlatch the window lock, come back, and then close the window. Reason for that is if you were evacuating the aircraft as the pilots from the flight deck, the window would slide back and hit you. So you need to unlatch it and then allow it to close back forward again, which we've modeled the correct way to open and close the window. It catches people out in the real aircraft. I've seen it, trying to move it. You think, why won't it open? Why won't it close? But that's the reason why. So yeah, we're nearly done on the engine start here, but you can already see what I'm talking about with temperatures wise. Everything's just a little bit more with the Neo. Now, let me just make sure we get all this set up properly. So we're going to arm the ground spoilers, do this, and we're going to turn off the rest of the items. Now, one thing that we've integrated as well is we've used the new Sim Update 15 ground handling in the A320, and I think it gives a really nice feeling for when you're taxiing the aircraft. So I'm going to just show you now. So if I release the parking brake and I just add a little bit more power onto the aircraft, we start to roll. Now I'm going to move my rudder full to the left, and I'm going to move it full to the right. And then it kind of has a bit of momentum to it where it wants to try and skid the nose wheel, which is absolutely realistic. And I think it gives a really great feeling for the aircraft now. So I'm just going to do a very quick takeoff. We're all programmed here, and I'm going to talk as we taxi out a little bit more about the fly-by-wire going on here. So the Neo is unique because the fly-by-wire actually starts to kick in at around about 80 knots on the takeoff roll. So when you pull back on the stick, you're actually already in the fly-by-wire range. And what it does is it will pitch the aircraft up so you can't really strike the tail, which is very nice to have. And also it means that no matter what sort of setting you've got and sort of center of gravity and things like that, it compensates for it to give a much more consistent feel. So I'm just going to do a takeoff now. So we've got our 50%. I'm going to put the thrust down, and you can see the engines are stabilizing, and I'm going to do a full power takeoff. So Mantoga SRS, and there it goes. Now the engines, they may sound like, that's my mistake. Serves me right for not using the takeoff memo, but it'll be fine. So let's just cancel that. So we've got the flaps out now, that's fine. So when we reach the 100 knots now, we've neutralizing the stick, and we reach V1, and I'm just pulling back slightly on the stick. You can see I'm not moving it, but it's actually pitching itself up slowly over the time, gradually get into the air. Now, I'm going to release the stick, and the fly-by-wire is fully active, and we are in the air with the gear up.
Nice.
So let me just bring that up there. Okay. Now, one thing I'm just going to quickly show you, and I think that's probably about all we've got time for, is I'll do a fly-by-wire demonstration. So if you imagine right now, we've got full power audio available. And what I'm going to do is put one of the flaps down another setting, and I'm just going to pull the stick all the way back. And you can see that it starts to hit this limit here. It will not go any higher. And I'm going to hold the stick back just to prove it. You can kind of see the flight controls are fully back. It's going to keep climbing, keep climbing, keep climbing, still not letting me lower the nose. Once it reaches here, the nose is now coming down by itself, if you can see that. So it's just holding the absolutely maximum that it can climb. And that's, we still have roll control from the aircraft, and we're not stalled, which is pretty cool. Absolutely fascinating stuff that Airbus do. So I think that's about all we've got time for, unless we've got some questions as well.
There were a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, go.
One is, when is this coming to the sim?
Well, it should be coming with the Sim Update 15, if that's correct.
That is correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember we said it's going to take a few months because it was not stable enough. And then obviously Asoba did stuff on WASM, et cetera, et cetera. Indie Builds did a bunch more work. Now we have it. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah, and it should be, I mean, it's an absolutely fantastic plane to fly. It's, as you can see, I'm not even holding the stick now. It just flies itself.
That's awesome. Same question. Does it have radial in function when using DIR now?
That one, not quite yet, but something that we will add. It's more of a little bit more of a complex function, because if you just add in the functionality to extend the center line, which is what people were asking for, you're only doing about half the system. So we want to do that properly, fully, so you can actually navigate using it, but it will come.
Mm-hmm. And Jörg, can you remind, there's a question about, is this going to be default standing next to the other?
I mean, so if you dial back, in 2020, we had 3 airliners, right? 747, 787, and the Neo. And obviously, Asobo made all those. Then Working Title improved the 2 Boeings with what we call aircraft and avionics updates. And then I asked Inibuilds, hey, can you improve the Neo? And instead of improving it, they just built a new one. So they're actually going to sit right next to each other in the sim coming up. And you can pick which one you like better. I'm actually very curious to see how many people will go switch over to this one versus stay with the existing one. We'll see.